Bonjour mes amis, et bienvenue en Pendu de la Lune. Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. What did you think of my butchering of the French language? I'm going to keep working on it. Bienvenue en Pendu de la Lune. So, le pendu dans la lune, the Hanged Man in the Moon. This is my French version because this is my brand new series in which I use Tarot de Marseille to answer a question that springs forth from my larger Rider-Waite-Smith weekly reading. And if you did not see last week's, you might want to check it out, but this is the second video of this series. So what I'm doing, again, is after I've done my larger reading of the week, I look at that, and usually there's another question that springs out of that comes out of that larger reading, and I take that question and I answer it with Tarot de Marseille. So I've done that this week. I just did a larger reading, and if you haven't seen that, I'll put a card up here above me so that you can go check that out. It was about facing the unknown. How do we face the unknown? And how do we discern whether we want to dive in or we want to step back and take a pause? Now, sometimes the unknown is risky. It poses a danger, but not always. Sometimes the unknown is something exciting and enticing and interesting and something we actually want to go forward into, though we don't know what it is completely, with confidence and with a curiosity. So how do we discern that? And the interesting thing is, at the end of that last larger video, the last question was, what am I afraid of? And the answer to that question were two of the same card. We got the Nine of Wands twice answering that question. So what am I afraid of? I'm afraid that I'm going to get beat up and have to stand there bravely and take it. Now, the Nine of Wands in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck is the card of the guy standing in front of a barricade of wands, beat up but still standing. And that's kind of what we're afraid of when we look at the unknown, is that we're going to get beat up a bit. So, when we notice that fear, the question that came out of that for me is, when we notice that fear of the unknown, where do we want to put our attention? Now, staring at the unknown and being afraid of getting beat up is not a productive thing. So where do we want to place our attention when we notice that arising in us? So let me show you that question and the cards that came up in the deck. Of course, the cards came up from the deck, not in the deck. And do you know which deck I'm using? These are from the Jean Dodal deck, originally published in 1701-ish. And this publication is by Flornoy. And these cards are still available. I'll put a link below if you want to go purchase a deck just like this of your own. But there's also a new version of the Jean Dodal on Kickstarter right now. A very interesting looking deck by Artisan Tarot. And I'll put a link to that Kickstarter too, in case you're interested in checking them out as well. But the Jean Dodal is one of the earlier Marseille versions, and it's one of my favorites. My first is usually the Noblet, then the Dodal, and then the Convert, maybe. There are others that I like as well. Let's move on to the question. So, when we notice fear of the unknown, where do we want to put our attention? And we see that there are three cards. One of them was the Four of Cups. In the center, we have the King of Swords. And at the end, we had the Six of Wands, which is an interesting grouping. Now there are three cards and one card from three different suits. We are missing one. We're missing a denier. We're missing a coins card. And that's okay. I mean, it's not like it's a huge spread and there are no coins. One was invariably going to be left out, and it's a coin. So we don't need to or feel like we want to focus on the material aspects too much when we're facing fear. That's not the best place. Yeah? This spread is showing us that the areas we want to focus on are emotions, our mental activity, and our passions, and maybe creativity. Which makes sense, doesn't it? Especially since the card that came up that we were afraid of was the Nine of Wands. It's interesting that we've got a Six of Wands showing up as part of the answer. And you'll notice that the king is the central figure, right? We've got the king sitting in the king's throne, holding the sword, kind of blocking their vision from the left, from the Four Cups. Though their body, the king's body, is towards the cups, the king's head is faced towards the wands, which indicates to me that we have an instinct, perhaps, or an urge to move towards the cups, but we know it's probably best to pay more attention to the wands. That's what this body posture of the king is telling me. So, first let's look at the card on the left, the Four Cups. Yeah, this is the direction that the king's instincts, be they for good or ill, are moving the body. And it kind of makes sense. Yeah? When we feel fear, it's an emotional response. And so we focus on the emotions. Our instinct is to pay attention to the emotions. And partially we do want to do that, yes? We don't want to ignore our emotions because our emotions are our indicator of how open we are to the powerful flow of intention in our lives. If we ignore our emotions, we're going to get pretty closed off from our power and our ability to move with intention and to move into the manifestation of our dreams, whatever they may be they a love interest, be they a passionate, creative project, be they a new home or a new job or a travel experience or any experience we want to have or that we have placed on the current of our intention. We are not going to be moving towards those very soon if we're closed off from the flow of intention. And it's our emotions which indicate how open we are or how closed off we are being. And a fearful response is a closed off response, is a closed off emotion. It's a protective emotion, one that is not open to the powerful flow of intention. So when we notice that, we want to notice it. We don't want to ignore it. We don't want to hide it. We first want to notice it. And our inclination is when we notice it that we want to change it. And we want to go in there and fix it, which is what I think this body posture is. I want to go in there and fix it. To the Four of Cups, perhaps. The Four of Cups, 4, number of stability, the square, the stable form. So, the Four of Cups for me, stable emotions, right? Controlled emotions. Perhaps remaining calm, which is a common response to fear, is it not? We get afraid, yeah? Whether our body shows it or not, we get afraid and we get like this, either with our bodies or internally in the center of our hearts, we get afraid. And we want to calm down, calm down, calm down. We try to make ourselves calm down. Does it work? When you've gotten scared or nervous or frightened and you've told yourself, calm down, calm down, calm down, how calm have you been able to become? Now, we can't force ourselves to calm down. We can't cut off the emotion either because that's part of our makeup as human beings. Yeah? As we've come into these bodies, the eternal nature that we are has come into these bodies. to inhabit and experience emotion. That's one of the joys of being here. And our emotion is part of the expression of who we are. The positive, joyful emotions are really the fullest expression of who we are as eternal beings having this human experience. But then we sometimes have an experience that we don't like and we cut off. And that our reaction to that cutting off is a negative one, like anything from irritation to worry to fear. And trying to say, no, I'm going to go from this to calm has never worked for me. So, what do we do? Now, we can't change the emotion directly. We could give it attention. One response is to give the emotion attention and rather than change it, observe it. Let it be. Letting the fear be. And the more attention we give the emotion, often the more that emotion will dissipate, will smooth out, will even out, will rise. Now, we can go from fear if we can give ourselves the time and space to give it attention and allow it to be there. That fear can ease into discomfort, which can ease into a little bit less discomfort, to maybe a little bit of just a little bit of frustration, to maybe a little bit of just calm, maybe up to ease. Possible, but that takes a lot of time, at least for me. Now let's move on to the king, because that's who we want to be in these situations, I believe. That's our central core of how we want to react. When we notice fear of the unknown, where do we want to shift our attention? First, we want to embody the king. Now remember, the king is neither male nor female, nor binary, nor trinary, nor non-gendered in this deck. The king is just the rank of the court card, and the king is the master of their suit. The king is the master of the mind. And in some ways, the king can be mind over heart, which could be helpful, yeah? Having the ability for our thoughts to recognize that we can shift our emotions by the way we think, by what we think. So, mind over heart. Sure, that works. Yeah? We can stop thinking the thoughts that cause the fear. And, well, not stop. We can change our thoughts from thoughts that are causing the fear to perhaps less fearful thoughts. We can perhaps remember times when we have had success in the face of the unknown. We can think of what we are appreciative of right here and right now. Now, we can change the thoughts we are thinking, which is what the King of Swords can do. Yeah? Mind over heart. Rather than having the heart control our thoughts, the King of Swords can use thought to modify, to shift, not change, not to delete or change our thoughts, but to shift the direction of our emotions. I didn't say that right. The king doesn't try to change or fix or manipulate the emotions, but recognizes that the king's thoughts affect the emotions. And so, because we can change our thoughts, we can shift our emotions along with our thought patterns, which is a totally King of Swords kind of thing to do. It's the card of truth. So, fear of the unknown is fear of not truth, but neither truth nor fiction. It's the fear of the insubstantial. It's the fear of the non-existent at present, which is the king's ability to search for truth. So the king is able to look into the unknown and look for the truth. Clear vision, open vision. But the king is also the one who can go beyond thought. Because the king is at the end of their suit, they're ready to move into the next cycle of evolution in perhaps another suit. Perhaps going back to wands. The king is also the one able to leap into the unknown, because the king has so much confidence in their ability to process and realize and understand the unknown once they get in there. The king is able to move into the unknown with confidence, and that's who we want to be. That's where we want to get. When we feel that fear of the unknown, that's the one we want to embody, the King of Swords. But how does the King of Swords accomplish this? Well, the King of Swords pays attention to the Six of Wands. Now, the Six of Wands is also a very stable card. Now, it's an even card. It's not the Four of somewhat rigid, perhaps, stability, like routines. The sixes, for me, are cards of beauty, of appreciation. So what is this king shifting their attention towards? They're shifting their attention away from their emotional state to their state of the wands, which is our passion, our creativity, also our inspiration. For me, cups are intuition, wands are inspiration. And those impulses to move, to act, to become. And the Six of Wands, to me, is the pleasure of action. You know, the beauty and pleasure of action. The doing what we love to do. Now that kind of, the beauty of action, the beauty of creativity, the beauty of passion is doing what we love to do. Taking pleasure in the things we are doing. And of course, vitality. It's the energy. So the king is able to turn their attention from the emotions, which at this moment are unstable, though we want to get to the Four of Cups. Realizes to get there, they need to pay attention to what they're doing, what they can take pleasure from right now, in the present moment. So the answer for us is that Six of Wands. We want to shift our attention to taking pleasure in what we are doing right now. Now we say, enjoy the journey, right? It's not the destination, enjoy the journey. Because that's all there is. Destinations don't exist. Only the present moment exists, and this is where we take pleasure. If we try to take pleasure in our destination, we're going to come into conflict because it doesn't exist. There are no final destinations in this universe because there is no death, there is no end. It's all a process of evolution and expansion. And it all happens right here in the right now. And the Six of Wands is reminding us to enjoy what we are doing. Focus on the passion of what we are doing and why we're doing it. And if we can do that, if we can shift our attention to where we are now and what we are doing now and what we love to do now, that fear will melt right away. We'll move right up the emotional scale and we'll be open to flowing with intention, even if it's going into the unknown. Because we trust that our intention is taking us in the direction we want to go. When we're open, when we feel free, when we feel love and vitality in what we're doing, we're going in the direction we want to go. When we're closed off, then we want to take a step back and realize that I'm not going where I want to go because of one of two reasons. One, I'm not going because I've closed myself off. Or two, that closing off is a gut reaction to realizing that I'm going in a direction I don't want to go. Our emotions are indicators of how we are moving and the direction we are going in. They show us both. So when we do get that fear reaction, we want to pay attention to it. We don't want to ignore it. And we want to realize that we don't change the emotion. We change our thoughts, we change our attention, and we move our attention, in this case, to the beauty of action, to the beauty of creativity, to the beauty of what we are doing, and the power that we have right here in the present moment, because the present is where our power is. And then we can move in the direction of the unknown, into the unknown, with confidence, trusting our minds. What does that say to you? Does that mean something to you? Does that give you a sense of, I can do this? And when I'm afraid I can't, I know what to do. If it does, let me know in the comments below. If it doesn't, let me know in the comments below. Let's talk about this. I think this is a very interesting topic. So friends, hit the like button if you enjoyed this little video. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Hit the alarm bell if you want to get notifications of when I upload videos. I usually do 1 or 2 a week. Now, from now on, I believe I will be doing at least 2 a week. And share this with anyone who you think might get benefit from it. And as always, comment below. I really would love to hear from you. And friends, now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.